Alright, so we're going to be on lesson 3 on page 7 of your notes, down here at the bottom. So today we're going to talk about surface area of cylinders. So cylinders is like a can of Pringles, a can of green beans, and finding the surface area of that. So we're going to still use the same surface area formula, but it's going to be slightly different because we're going to be talking about circles. So if you undo a can, so here we have like a can of beans or something like that. If you were to unravel a can, you would see that the wings of the can would be circles. These would be our bases. Alright, so this is a base, and this is the base. And then like the label part would unravel to form a rectangle, and that would be considered our lateral surface area, all faces but the bases. And so what we'll realize is that the label wraps around the base. Okay, and when we talk about wrapping around the base, it would be the perimeter, but we know that the perimeter of a circle is also called the circumference. So, if we have our formula, surface area equals 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter of the base times the height of the prism. Our B is the area of the circle. Our P, at this point, perimeter of a circle, is known as the circumference. So we would need to use the circumference formula. If you go back to your yellow formula sheet, you'll see that circumference equals 2 pi r, or pi times diameter, depending on if you have the radius or the diameter. Coming back up here to B, because that's the area, and we're talking about the area of a circle, we would have to use the area formula, which is area equals pi r squared. Now our h stays the same, that's just the height. How tall is the can? How tall? So here we automatically have our height of the prism, and so we can start filling in some information. Okay, this is a bunch of googly glop and how they have it written, but basically, if this is finding the area of the base, because we're finding the area, this is your B that we're looking at. Okay, so if we're going to use the area formula, pi r squared, we know pi is 3.14, and our can here, our radius, we're going to place our r with 1.5. So 1.5 squared. This is not 1.5 times 2. It is 1.5 times 1.5, which is what I kept seeing an error on your math test. So if we simplify that, 1.5 squared gives me 2.25. And so which gives us, if we multiply these two together, gives us 7.065. Our directions say to round to the nearest hundredth, so that's 1, 2, 6 looks to the 5, tells us 6 to go up. So our area is 7.07. So our area of our base is 7.07. Okay, so if we turn the page, we're talking about circumference. And remember, let me see if I can make this less blurry for you. Okay, remember circumference is the same thing as our P, or perimeter, but circumference formula is 2 pi r. Because we have the radius, that's the formula we're going to use. So we've got our 2, we're going to replace pi with 3.14, and r is 1.5 from our previous picture. So if we put that in our calculator and we simplify it, we get 9.42. So our P is 9.42. Okay, we're not going to deal with this hoobly gob right here. Okay, and we're not going to deal with this hoobly gob. Okay, we know that our height that we saw was, if we flip it over, the height of our can was 4.5. So our height is 4.5. So we can take all that information and plug it into our surface area formula here. Okay, so our B was 7.07, and we have two of those. We can substitute P with 9.42, and we can substitute our H with 4.5. And we can plug that straight into our calculator, and because it's an approximation, we get that the surface area is about 56.53 inches squared. Our lateral surface area is going to be the same spot. It's still the pH. This is still my lateral surface area. So if I wanted to find the lateral surface area, just the label of the can, I could multiply those two together, which would give me, I don't have it right off my bat, but would give me 42 and 39/100 would be my lateral surface area if I cared just about the label. Okay, so this is not new. It's the same process. You just have to remember what formula to use. Because we're talking about circles, you're going to have to be using the area of a circle formula, and you're going to have to use, instead of perimeter, you can't add up all the sides, you have to find the circumference. Okay, so what does that look like? So if we look at this shape right here, it says you can write the formula to represent the surface area of the cylinder by using its neck. So here we've got an original can, and then if you flip it over, it unwraps the can here. And so we have the radius here. And this rectangle was wrapped around the can, making that this the circumference of the can. So we can put all that together in the surface area formula. So if we have this as our surface area formula, okay, the B stands for area, and our area is going to be the area of a circle, and the area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay, that's how I find the area of this circle, and I have two of them. I have one circle, two circles, so I have two. That's why there's 2B, two bases. Alright, and then it says write the formula to find the lateral surface area. So this part right here, my P and my H. Well, my P now is going to be the circumference. Okay, because that's what the perimeter of the base is. The perimeter of the base is wrapping around the circle, which is the circumference. So circumference equals 2 pi r. And then we have the height of the prism, so we would have to multiply by the height. So what does that look like all put together? Well, the area of the two bases, so 2 times, instead of writing B, it could be pi r squared, plus my P, which would be 2 pi r, times my height. So this is the surface area of a cylinder. Okay, that's what it would look like put all together. So let's see what this looks like here, based on if we had it in word form and not just a picture. Since a town needs to cover the outside of a storage tank, they need to cover the top, bottom, and the sides of the tank. The radius of the tank is 2.5. That's important. The height of the tank is 9 centimeters. Calculate the surface area of the tank. Okay, so we're finding surface area. We know that. So if we're finding surface area, we need this formula right here. But I also feel like sometimes when I have just words, I might need to draw a picture of this. So I have a cylinder that has a radius of 2.5, but the height of the can is 9. Okay, so it's the same way we've been finding surface area. I need a B, I need a P, and I need a H. Okay, and so I look at the shape of my base. My base is a circle, so I need to find the area of a circle, which equals pi r squared. Okay, well, let's leave it in terms of pi for right now. And you can think of pi as also like an x, like a variable, okay? So just hold on to that pi for right now. And let's just place the radius. Okay, our radius is 2.5 squared pi. So 2.5 squared gives me, let's see, let's put that 2. If I can put it in 2.5 squared gives me 6.25. So my B at the moment is 6.25 pi. That's my B at the moment. Okay? My P is my perimeter, which is acting as the circumference, which is 2 pi r. Once again, let's leave the pi. So I've got 2 times pi times my r, which is 2.5. And simplify that. Well, 2 times 2.5 is 5. So 5 pi. That's my P. And my height was 9. So if we put all that together into the surface area formula, surface area equals 2b. Well, b was 2 times 6.25 pi. Plus my p, which was 5 pi, times my height, which was 9. Okay? If we're going to leave it in terms of pi, we're going to pretend like this is a variable and we're not going to touch it, and we're going to combine like terms. So we're going to do 2 times 6.25. So 2 times 6.25 gives me 12.5 pi. And then I'm going to do 5 times 9. I'm going to combine those like terms, which gives me 45, keep the pi. Because we have pi and both of them, we can combine like terms. So we can do 12.5 plus 45, which gives me 57.5 pi. So this is as if we are leaving it in terms of pi. What if we wanted to express it with pi as 3.14? Well, you would replace pi, you would substitute pi with 3.14, and you would do 57.5 times 3.14, which would give you, I'll let you put in your calculator real quick, that's right, 180.55 meters squared. So this is in terms of pi. And this is if we used 3.14 for pi. So both of these answers are correct. Okay? All right, moving on. All right, so we're going to says the net and cylinder is shown. What is the surface area? Box that in, highlight it, in terms of pi. So we're leaving pi. And then what is the surface area in terms of pi and 3.14? So we want to put it in terms of pi, and we want to leave it in, and we want to use 3.14. So since I'm finding the surface area, I'm going to start with my surface area formula, like always. And I need a B, a P, and an H. Nothing has changed. And just like we've done in the past, if you want to go ahead and take care of your height, which is 9, you don't have to worry about it anymore. It's there, okay? And so this is area, if you want to write up underneath it, area of the base. Well, you have, what is my shape? I need to find the area of a circle. So what is the formula for the area of a circle? Well, area of a circle equals pi r squared. Okay? Well, I'm going to leave pi there for now. And I'm going to replace my r. My radius is 2, so I have 2 squared times pi. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. So 4 pi is my B. P stands for perimeter. Well, the perimeter of a circle is circumference. So circumference equals 2 pi r. I'm going to leave pi alone, so I'm going to do 2 times pi times my radius, which is 2. I'm going to combine like terms. 2 times 2 is 4, so I have 4 pi once again. So now that I have all 3 of my letters, I can combine it into my surface area formula. So surface area equals 2 times my b, which was 4 pi, plus 4 pi times 9. Simplify. 2 times 4 is 8 pi. 4 times 9 is 36 pi. Combine like terms because they both have a pi, gives me 44 pi. That's in terms of pi. Well, what if I want to use 3.14? I just take my and I substitute pi for 3.14. So surface area is going to be about 44 times 3.14. So my surface area is about, if you go ahead and type that in your calculator, 138.16 inches squared. Okay, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try number 5 on your own. We're leaving it in terms of pi, and we're using 3.14. Right, you should have these 3 as your letters, okay? Remember, you had to use the area of a circle formula, you had to use circumference formula, and now you can put it into the surface area formula. You have 2b plus the p times the height. Then you should have simplified. 2 times 100 is 200 pi. 20 times 22 is 440 pi. Combine your like terms because they both have pi, so it would end up giving me 640 pi. That would be in terms of pi. If we wanted to use 3.14, we could come over here and go 640 times 3.14, and you should have gotten about 2009 and 6/10 inches squared is what you should have gotten. So the next part is your homework that you're going to start on. So what I recommend you doing is going ahead and trying it. Pause the video, try it, then look at the answers. I'll also have the answers posted, the answer key posted on Google Classroom, so you can watch step by step. However, that does not mean you just need to copy. You actually need to be practicing this skill so that you can do it on the test by yourself. But just notice that what you're doing is you're finding, for 1 and 2, you're finding the surface area from the net, but you need to find it using 3.14 and also leaving it in terms of pi like we've been doing up here. When you flip it over, 3 and 4 you're doing from a cylinder. You're also still finding it in terms of pi, and you're using 3.14 for both of these. And number 5, you're finding the surface area, but you do not have to leave it in terms of pi. You can just plug in 3.14. So what does that look like if we're not going to leave it in terms of pi and we're going to use 3.14? What you could do is you're still going to follow the same surface area formula. Okay, it's going to be the same process, except when you get to this step, instead of leaving pi, you're going to substitute pi with 3.14, and you're just basically going to go ahead and do the math. So we have you can just come over into your calculator, and you can do 3.14 times 3 squared, and it's going to go, you're just going to go ahead and solve it out. Okay, so instead of leaving the pi. Same thing when you're talking about the perimeter or the circumference. You've got 2 pi r. So that would be 2. Replace or substitute pi with 3.14 times your radius. And then you just straight punch that out of your calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 3, which gives you 18.84. And now you can plug those 3 numbers straight into your surface area formula, and you should get your answer. Okay, so you have those to do, and then you have these on the back to do as well. However, I do want to do number 7 with you, and then I'm going to leave the rest to do by yourself, because you should be able to do that at this point by yourself. So it says an African style house is composed of a cone-shaped top and a cylindrical bottom. One of the rondavelles has a cylinder floor with a diameter of 25 feet and the walls 7 foot high. So if we were to take the roof off of this house, it would be cylindrical. It looks like a cylinder. But pay attention here. We have a diameter of 25 feet. Okay, so that means my diameter is 25 feet. What would my radius be? Because that's the complete diameter. How would I find the radius? Remember, the radius is just the diameter cut in half. So half of 25 should be 12.5. So we have it just in case we need it. And then it comes over and says that the walls are 7 foot tall. So that would be the height of my house. And so from here, I can, now that I've drawn the picture, I can solve these 2 problems here. It says find the surface area of the exterior wall of the house in terms of pi. So we just want to know the walls. We don't want to know the top, and we don't want to know the bottom. We just want to know the lateral surface area. This is really the lateral surface area. So if we think about our surface area formula, because all we care about is the lateral surface area, all we care about is the P and the H. So we don't need the bases. Well, we already know our height is 7, so we're done with that. Remember, our P is the perimeter. Well, the perimeter of a circle is the circumference. And we also have 2 formulas for circumference. We have the 2 pi r, or remember we have the pi times the diameter. Because we were given the diameter, we can use this formula right here. All we have to do is, because we're leaving it in terms of pi, replace d with 25, keep pi. Okay? So now I just multiply the 2, 25 pi times 7. 25 times 7 gives me 175 pi feet squared. Okay? And then find the approximate surface area of the exterior walls of the house using 3.14 for pi. We've already found it. Okay? You know it's 175 pi. You're going to substitute pi with 3.14, so 175 times 3.14. You're going to do the math and get your answer. And that's pretty much it. That's our lesson for today. I hope you paid attention. Make sure you go back and finish those problems. Problems 1, 2, 3, 4, and also number 6 here. And then check Google Classroom for answers.